But does online then, is online or is a 30 the best thing for online? Or does online need its own, let's talk about video advertising. Does online need its own video advertising format that's developed just for the space?
Okay, I feel like we're back in the year 2004 right now. Because
but this isn't figured out yet.
But to say that the 30 is the appropriate standard for the web and for digital advertising, in my view, is incorrect.
It's the standard for lazy marketers.
It is the standard for lazy marketers who have creative that has been developed. But we have innovative
You're like,
formats.
let's just
we
put our
have
TV
overlays.
out of
We
the
have, look at what Miller did with 1-second spots during the
Right.
Super Bowl. That was innovative. So it's probably not a 1-second spot, but it could be a 5 to 7-second spot that is a pre-roll that precedes video content.
Okay, Benjamin, from a creative perspective, can you get your advertising message across in 5 seconds?
You know what? I think it will take a few years, but at a certain point in time, the internet's going to be in the minds of the sort of the middle of the bell curve, like the more important medium than television. And when that happens, like we won't be talking about 30-second spots as being the predominant thing anymore, because people are going to start on the internet. But while people are spending all their money on TV, and then they're like, crap, we have this 30-second spot. I don't know how to make interesting online ads or websites, or or they call me up and I tell them how much it costs, and they're like,
right.
We're a little expensive.
And it's just it's time. It's time.
It's like it might be a 5-second, it might be a 5-minute, it might be 52 seconds.
But it depends on the creative and the content.
It's like, yeah, how long does it, I guess the answer is like however long it takes, and
Right, but we don't necessarily have that type of flexibility to say produce a 37-second spot if that's what you need to tell the story, and have that be scalable.
But with pre-roll,
I guess why not, actually? If you were like, I have this 37-second spot, and you were like, hey Google, could you run a 37-second
because so many
ad
publishers,
next to this other thing?
Because so
Would
many,
you do it?
because I'll tell you why.
answer that question. So let me answer that question. The answer is yes. We have a product called Promoted Video, and it could be a 5-second spot or it could be a 9-minute spot, because it is a piece of content that is then promoted.
Right.
But I think we're talking about, we haven't framed it the right way. There are, one gating factor is ad format. And there are 15s and there are 30s, and there's dependencies on what type of content it's being served before. There are also overlay units, which are transparent, flash at the bottom of the player. There are skinnable players.
Absolutely.
I mean, there are half a dozen fairly scalable ways.
But this is all predicated on the idea that like the way you're going to get all your scale is to have everybody watching the same show that you chop up into little bits and then like interrupt them, and like, if it's the future feels a little more like promoting individual pieces of content and associating advertising with promoted content is a more natural sort of evolution of the internet than that it's going to be just like TV,
Right. But isn't the flash overlay more akin to banner advertising than it is to video advertising? And if video is the right thing for your brand, how do you scale that within this environment? And I think that's really what the trick is.
Well, you got to create products that take away all the clutter, right? So one of the things that video lets you do, if it's executed correctly, is to take away all the clutter on the page. We have pages. This industry, and I'll put myself included in that, have created these two-dimensional web pages that have 1,000 links on them and 1,000 things going on, and companion ads with flash, and a video running here. I mean, it's a mess.
Right.
And the point that I would make is that we can keep innovating into the mess that we've innovative into. We can keep asking the question, what about the consumer?
Right.
Or we can get serious, frankly, about creating a scalable ad currency for this business.
Right.
And why not leverage the ad currency that already exists? It's existed for 50 years. This is just practicality. Yeah. I love the stuff that Benjamin does. We hired Benjamin to do stuff. It took us, 6 months to execute?
It took a while, yeah.
Right?
Like, can we add a T-shirt icon to the homepage
can you
of CNN.com?
Right.
Yeah. No, it was complicated.
Complicated.
Sure. Yeah. Totally.
So that
Well, okay.
I,
So
I'm
you
just,
do you have a very valid point that there's a tremendous industry in the fact that there's tons and tons and tons of 30-second ads.
It
that
feels
are
like a
out there.
cop-out. It feels like a cop-out to say the creative exists, therefore let's bring it online.
And that's why I think it needs to come back to the consumer, because you have to understand how they're taking in content and what they want to see. And they may not necessarily get the choice in this, but if we're constantly feeding them a 30 every time.
Is there a way to sort of start creating like social experiences around the ads themselves?
there's
then,
opt-in.
instead of
Absolutely.
putting
I mean,
those
and
out, you know what I mean?
there's
Like, can you
ads
start
out there that
attaching-
allow for sharing and allow for linking.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
but
but it's
like-
not a standard.
No,
It's-
and you can
but
measure
that's
the
the,
value of
you
an
know,
opt-in view versus a forced view. You know,
Right.
so
Sure.
people remember when people choose, right? Which is one of the reasons that I think the selector unit that the Viveki Pool has been promoting. There's a selector unit, a user choice on Hulu. We have a user choice on YouTube where the user gets to choose which ad do I want to watch before I watch this piece of content.
here's the thing that's shocking about that. It took, and I don't know if Kurt's here or anyone from Viveki, so I can step on them. It took, what, a year and a half and a couple $1 million to conclude that pre-roll was a good product. And a 15 and a
Like
30
it's,
was good as long as you could select which one you wanted. Right? So I could have taken the $1 million and paid for you.
Is that how much?
I think
Yeah, well, and you know what?
But,
There's weird stuff too. I was like talking to Hulu, and they were explaining all the cool stuff that you can do. Like all the ads are flash, and you can just have a flash video, or you can have this whole interactive experience. And they were explaining all the crazy possibilities of a Hulu ad. And I was like, how come I've never seen anyone do any of this stuff? And they're like, because the only people that are paying for it are like the media agencies who just have this inventory of 30-second spots, and they don't have a budget
So
to
it's
do
Adam's fault.
No, but they don't have. But they're just like the conduit by which they obtain their ads is like talking to the same people that made the TV ads, and they don't want to spend any more money.
Yep.
You know, like they want to just. They're like, what? Give us another.
No, I think the frame of the conversation needs to
And,
change to how can we utilize the medium in video to push across the types of messages we need. Take TV out of the picture completely, and let's develop formats. Let's develop. I don't mean selectors necessarily or different sizes and units, but what I'm talking about is for individual brands, how do we get the messages across in an efficient and scalable way that are best for them? And you know, I would actually personally lean towards having shorter form units that are less expensive to produce, and you can get lots of them out there, and figure out what's working at the time, as opposed to putting all your eggs in the 30-second spot basket and just kind of crossing your fingers to hope it works.
And having, look, at YouTube from the very beginning, we had a video unit that was a click-to-play video unit on the homepage. And when advertisers put a 30-second spot in that unit, it did not work. People didn't watch it. It didn't work. When there was creative that was thought of as content that was developed for digital, developed for that audience, those were the videos that were viewed.
Right, but that's
tens of
generally
times.
creative as content is something that users are going to find, not something you're forcing them to watch.
Look,
it
we
becomes
don't have this.
when they make the decision to go to your Facebook page or your YouTube page and watch it. If you're forcing them to watch it before they get to, say, Lost, it's not. I don't see that as content. That's an ad, then.
What I find is fascinating is that I do feel like it's 2004. We're still having this discussion about what the user wants, and I keep going back to 1957 or whenever radio ads started first, and wondering whether they had these same conversations, whether we were going to interrupt a user for 2 friggin' minutes every 8 minutes.
All right. So David doesn't care about the consumer.
Okay.
That's
Well,
a
I'm just saying, if you did television have this same kind of debate in the same panel when they decided to chunk up their shows every 8 minutes?